Reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. This is our online live class number 7 on this holy book. In our last session, we saw that there is no contradiction between having simultaneous spiritual experiences or realizations and living our life in this world. They can go together. We can practice spiritual disciplines, at the same time we can also perform our duties in the world. And that is more natural in the case of an incarnation of God. There is no contradiction like that. We remember that in the Gita, Arjuna was asking Sri Krishna at the end of the second chapter, O Keshava, what is the disposition of a man of God? How does an enlightened person talk? How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he talk, sit, walk? These are the questions Arjuna asked. Sri Ramakrishna once went to meet Vidya Sagar. Ishwar Chandra Vidya Sagar, a great philanthropist of Bengal and a great scholar of Sanskrit, lived in Kolkata. Kolkata, that time it was called Calcutta, was the capital of British India till that time. Swami Vivekananda once remarked that he had great regard for Vidya Sagar. His regard for Vidya Sagar was only next to what he had for Sri Ramakrishna. Vidya Sagar asked Sri Ramakrishna, has God given more power to some and less to others? Sri Ramakrishna told, God dwells in all beings as the all-pervading power. He is present even in an ant. But there is a spatial manifestation of his power in some. If that were not true, how could one man defeat 10, while another person tries to run away from even one? Why do people have regard for you? Have you grown 2 horns? That's what Sri Ramakrishna asked Vidya Sagar. Why have we come to see you? Have you grown 2 horns? Compared to others, you have more compassion and learning. This is why they have regard for you and come to see you. Don't you agree? So he asked him, have you grown 2 horns? Has anything about your external features changed? So, in the Gita we have seen that Arjuna was asking something similar to what Sri Ramakrishna alluded to. Have you grown 2 horns that people respect you, that we have come to see you? Arjuna was asking questions with an inquisitiveness. If after God realization, the external or physical features of that person change, does the saint's voice change into a sweet voice of a nightingale bird? Or does he start speaking in Hochdeutsch or Victorian English? Does he now sit on a high pedestal which is humanly not reachable? Does he walk in a Mr. Universe fashion? Just observe the ordinariness of our expectations. It seems to be great, you need to be physically excellent. Even though Arjuna was the brightest talent in those days, his ideas about spirituality fell short of his worldly intelligence. On the other hand, Sri Krishna, the great teacher of humanity, did not walk that way. He did not answer any of the questions asked by Arjuna. Any. How does he talk? How does he walk? How does he sit? These were the questions. And the Gita records that a big discourse given by Sri Krishna in answer to these questions. But he did not take these questions at face value. He narrated in many words the traits of a man of realization. What actually changes inside the person, not in his or her physical features, and how his or her behavior in the world reflects that inside transformation. Sri Ramakrishna emphatically told, I swear in the name of Divine Mother that there is nothing in my body but Mother. Sri Chaitanya told, Na sau Ramana, na ham Ramani. That is, I am neither God nor a devotee. In me the two have blended into one. Sri Krishna's narration of the divine qualities of a realized person is a reminder to us what we should do to achieve those qualities. He said, Yad yad acharati shrestha. The behavior of a person of realization are meant to be emulated by those who are trying to be free. Swami Vivekananda addressed Sri Ramakrishna as Nara Deva. That is, Nara means human, Deva means God. A simultaneous manifestation of both human and divine in one. Sri Ramakrishna manifested human qualities to the fullest extent, which cannot be achieved by a human being. At the same time, we get a glimpse of such qualities of Sri Ramakrishna, what could be called the borderline or threshold of divine qualities. The Divine Mother Kali instructed Sri Ramakrishna to remain in this threshold of realization. Sri Ramakrishna's mind used to soar very high spiritually, would be lost in samadhi very often. How many times in a day it would have happened? Therefore, Mother Kali did not want that Sri Ramakrishna would be lost in samadhi such a long time. So, she wanted that Sri Ramakrishna should be available to talk to people, to impart the knowledge of the other side of this world, transcendental knowledge for the benefit of humanity. Therefore, Mother Kali instructed him to remain in Bhava Mukha at the threshold of realization. There is a logic which is known as the Delhi Deepak Nyaya. Delhi means the threshold. Deepak means the lamp. The logic is like that. If you place a lamp on the threshold of a door, it illuminates both the rooms. Or the experience that borders between two realizations, the empirical and the transcendental. This is the midpoint between these two. On one occasion, Girish Chandra Ghosh, the Bohemian dramatist, we spoke about him already, who was given to alcoholism, he approached Sri Ramakrishna quite drunk and addressed him saying, "You must become my son. I have not been able to serve you in this life. But if you are born again as my son, I can do that. Please promise me that you will be my son." Sri Ramakrishna replied, "Why should I be born as your son? My father was such a pious man. That means you are an alcoholic." Girish became very angry and abused Sri Ramakrishna. Later on, the devotees came to know of this incident and advised Sri Ramakrishna that he should never visit Girish anymore. Never visit him. Then another devotee, Ramchandra Datta, of whom we spoke last time, he was a doctor, came to know of it the next day. Now Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "Hello Ram, what do you have to say about Girish?" Ram recalled a story from the life of Sri Krishna regarding Sri Krishna's conversation with a poisonous snake called Kaliya. Ram told, "You have given him only poison. Where can he get nectar to offer you? That's what he has. That's all. Only he has. He has nothing more than that. Where can he get nectar to offer you?" Sri Ramakrishna immediately asked Ram to take him to Girish in his carriage. Immediately. Seeing Sri Ramakrishna at his place, Girish fell at his feet and said, "O revered sir, if you had not come today, I would have concluded that you still had not attained that supreme state of knowledge where praise and blame are equal. And moreover, that you could not be called a Paramahansa. I would have considered you to be an ordinary man like us. But today I have understood that you are not an ordinary man like us. By this one act itself, Sri Ramakrishna proved that he was not an ordinary man. He was God. No ordinary human being would have digested such dishonor. By many such acts, how many times Sri Ramakrishna's love proved that he was not any ordinary soul, and his love was divine, free from sanctified shopkeeping. Swami Vivekananda uses this phrase, sanctified shopkeeping. Always there is a bargain in our worldly love. Sometimes we are awed by people's endurance of heat or cold. We appreciate and value someone's endurance of suppose cold. In very cold winter, you will see people, some people are there who may not use proper clothing. They will have light clothing. We are very much impressed. And we are impressed because we are impressed by the forbearance of this person. But we don't mark that the same person may need an air-conditioned room in summer. Rather, it may be found that the person has some physical health problem or maybe some thyroid problem, something else, or some psychological problem too. Endurance means remaining undisturbed by both of the pairs of opposites, like heat and cold, noise and silence, praise and blame, etc., etc. That is what is called forbearance. Titiksha. Titiksha means be equal in praise and blame, in suffering, in happiness. Moreover, Sri Krishna did not even recognize these physical endurances as very important. He meant the endurance that is shown by the above and many such other incidents in the lives of great ones. Equanimity, same-sightedness, and remaining undisturbed in praise or blame. That's what Sri Ramakrishna showed. These are a few of the many differences that lie between an ordinary person like us and an incarnation of God. We will now read some portion from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The evening worship was over in the temples. M met Narendra on the bank of the Ganges and they began to converse. Narendra told M about his studying in college, his being a member of the Brahmo Samaj, and so on. It was now late in the evening and time for M's departure, but he felt reluctant to go and instead went in search of Sri Ramakrishna. He had been fascinated by Sri Ramakrishna's singing and wanted to hear more. At last he found Sri Ramakrishna pacing alone in the temple in front of the Kali temple. A lamp was burning in the temple on either side of the image of the Divine Mother. The single lamp in the spacious Nath Mandir blended light and darkness into a kind of mystic twilight, in which the figure of Sri Ramakrishna could be dimly seen. M had been enchanted by Sri Ramakrishna's sweet music. With some hesitation, he asked him whether there would be any more singing that evening. No, not tonight, said Sri Ramakrishna after a little reflection. Then, as if remembering something, he added, but I am going soon to Balaram Bose's house in Kolkata. Come there and you will hear me sing. M agreed to go. Sri Ramakrishna, do you know Balaram Bose? M, no sir, I don't. Sri Ramakrishna, he lives in Bosepara. M, well sir, I shall find him. As Sri Ramakrishna walked up and down the hall with M, he said to him, let me ask you something. Sri Ramakrishna said to M, let me ask you something. What do you think of me? M remained silent. Again Sri Ramakrishna asked, "What do you think of me? How many cents of knowledge of God have I?" M, reflecting, "I don't understand what you mean by sense. But of this I am sure, I have never before seen such knowledge, ecstatic love, faith in God, renunciation and Catholicity anywhere." Sri Ramakrishna laughed. M bowed low before him and took his leave. He had gone as far as the main gate of the temple garden when he suddenly remembered something and came back to Sri Ramakrishna, who was still in the Nath Mandir. Nath Mandir is the bigger hall in front of the Garbha Mandira, means Sanctum Sanctorum. That is called Nath Mandir. In the dim light, Sri Ramakrishna, all alone, was pacing the hall, rejoicing in the self, as the lion lives and roams alone in the forest. M, in silent wonder, surveyed that great soul. Sri Ramakrishna to M, "What makes you come back?" M, "Perhaps the house you asked me to go to belongs to a rich man. They may not let me in. I think I had better not go. I would rather meet you here," means at Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna, "Oh no, why should you think that? Just mention my name. Say that you want to see me." M nodded his assent, and after saluting Sri Ramakrishna, took his leave. We remember Sri Ramakrishna made M promise that he, means M, would not argue with him. M himself decided not to do so anymore. Of course, after his third failed attempt, he decided like that. This has two meanings. M was a professor of logic. He was trained to argue. There is a preliminary book in Nyaya philosophy or the Indian logic, which is known as Bhasha Paricheda. Bhasha Paricheda means the limitation of language. Actually, the meaning is learn how to speak. Learn how to speak. So, M was trained in that. He knew how to speak, how to argue. Not only that, he taught his students the arts of argumentation as his profession. So, M's mind was so much colored with all logical things, and therefore there was lack of faith and acceptance. Always question with the knowledge of logic, whether it is practical or not. That is not the question, but question you must. When someone is saying something, you will see our mind will start thinking of a contrary question, not listening to what that person is saying. not trying to understand what that person is saying, but our minds will be trying to form logic to contradict what that person has been saying. That is why Sri Ramakrishna did not like this type of argumentation, just for the sake of arguing. The scriptures call it Tarkajalam, network of logic. That does not take us to any real conclusion. So M's mind was completely colored with this type of impressions. There is a story. Two students came to a tabla teacher. I think all of you know what a set of Indian tabla is. The English autocorrect in MS Word in my computer will not accept the word tabla, T-A-B-L-A. It changes it to table without asking you. And when I came back and read, I saw it was table. Everywhere, table, table, table. Such is called a deep-rooted samskara or die-hard habit in us. We are simply fed with this type of data, as if our genetic structure is changed that way. Anyway, one of our students told, those students told the teacher that he had already learned tabla for about a year. The other one had never tried his hands with tabla. The teacher told he would need 3 years to teach some workable knowledge to the student who did not learn anything. And to the first student he told that he would take 5 years. The first student who has already learned 1 year, the teacher told he would take 5 years to teach him, to give some workable knowledge of tabla. The teacher calculated 5 years because he needed 2 years to erase his students' earlier learning of 1 year. To erase his students' earlier learning of 1 year. This is called unlearning. Unlearning. This word has been coined by Thich Nhat Hanh, that Cambodian priest, Buddhistic monk. Unlearning. This is not difficult to comprehend. There will be so big resistance to change old habits, and we cannot theoretically guess how difficult it is to change our habits, change our mindset. And the second point is, Mahendranath assessed Sri Ramakrishna's realization in the following words. Sri Ramakrishna helped Mahendranath to change his mindset. In the very beginning itself, that thing happened. That is why Mahendranath accepted or mentally promised that he would never argue with Sri Ramakrishna again. So, Mahendranath assessed Sri Ramakrishna's realization in these few words. He said, I have never before seen such knowledge, ecstatic love, faith in God, renunciation, and Catholicity anywhere. Did this assessment come overnight? No, not overnight really. But it did not take that long for Mahendranath. That is because Mahendranath himself was not an ordinary disciple. This part of the story should not be forgotten. Sri Ramakrishna was great, but the student too was not that bad. Ascharya Vakta kusalosya labdha. Yama is teaching Nachiketa. Yama is the greatest teacher, Nachiketa told, that I will not get another teacher like you. Bhakta chasya twadrig anyona labhya. I will not get another great teacher like you. To Yama, Nachiketa told. This is the story in the Kathopanishad. And Nachiketa, that young man who was in his teens, he was also equally great student. Mahendranath enlisted 5 special qualities in Sri Ramakrishna that crossed the threshold of the limit of worldly excellences. Hence the expression, I have never before seen, is so important here. Similarly, we refer to Swami Vivekananda's assessment of Sri Ramakrishna as Nara Deva, man and God in one and the same frame. Again, we have to keep in mind that M was a professor of logic. Many of his theoretical views got corrected and also transformed after he came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna. Still what he says should not be taken as his emotional nonsense or trifle talk. He knows what he says. So what Mahendra said about Sri Ramakrishna can be understood this way. He said 5 sentences in one. 5 sentences. Number 1, he said, I have never before seen such knowledge anywhere. Number 2, I have never before seen such ecstatic love anywhere. Number 3, I have never before seen such faith in God anywhere. Number 4, I have never before seen such renunciation anywhere. And number 5, I have never before seen such Catholicity anywhere. M is not using the word seen, meaning seeing with physical eyes only. He has surely not traveled all over the world to verify it. So what he meant here is that his seeing includes his information by reading books and listening to lectures of great speakers of different religions and philosophies in those days. There were very great speakers in those days. We see that he has used the word anywhere very boldly. By this he wants to tell that Sri Ramakrishna is unique in these respects. In some you may find 1 or 2 or some of these qualities, not all. Particularly the idea, the Catholicity. That is something very special in Sri Ramakrishna. These divine qualities like knowledge, ecstatic love, faith in God, renunciation and Catholicity, which manifested in their fullest form in Sri Ramakrishna, are not common even in ordinary spiritual teachers. If we, the ordinary mortals, practice any one of these special qualities, it is guaranteed that all the other 4 will cluster around that nucleus. In the celebrated introductory commentary to the Bhagavad Gita, Shankara Acharya, the high priest of non-dual Vedanta, brings down God, the creator, to the world and creates an introduction to the phenomenon called avatara, an incarnation of God. Shankara writes in Sanskrit, Sacha Bhagavan Gyanaishwarya Bhakti Virya Balavirya Tejo Bhissampa Sada Sampanna. And thus goes the poetic passage written by that genius, the English translation of which is, that creator God or Bhagavan is in eternal possession of knowledge, lordliness, executive power, strength, energy and splendor. M told these things about Sri Ramakrishna: knowledge, ecstatic love, faith in God, renunciation and Catholicity. Shankara Acharya continued that God, that incarnation has under his control his all-pervasive Maya. It is the Maya of God or the material nature. Thus, though unborn, immutable, the creator of beings, and in essence eternally pure, conscious and free, that God appears by virtue of his Maya to be embodied and born as man, as it were, out of non-sectarian love for ensuring the welfare of the unfragmented world. Then Shankara continues, though he has no private end of his own to promote, out of compassion, in order to further the well-being of all living beings, wherever or whoever they may be, he imparted to Arjuna, who was submerged in the sea of grief and delusion, the twofold Vedic dharma, the path of an all-renouncing monk and that of those who follow married life. For when championed and practiced by men rich in excellence, it is bound to flourish. At another place, Shankara speaks of the contrast. When championed and practiced by religious people having goals other than spiritual ones. All the spiritual qualities, when they are championed and practiced by religious people, having goals other than spiritual ones, it is bound to degrade, Shankara said. The main sentence spoken by M that was stressed by many open-minded people is, I have never before seen such Catholicity anywhere. That way Sri Ramakrishna was unique. Anyway, M helped us to understand Sri Ramakrishna better in the beginning of the Gospel. That goes to his credit. M's mind was prepared for the next instruction, and that is to follow not only the works of the teacher, but to physically follow him wherever he goes. M was hesitant to do that. That is why when Sri Ramakrishna himself invited him to meet him at Balaram Bose's house in Kolkata, he said, I think I had better not go. I would rather meet you here in Dakshineswar. Do you remember the story told in the Bible? Then comes another man, this one already a disciple, and he addressed Jesus as Lord. He has strong faith, but he has a pressing obligation. His father had just died, and he asks Jesus to allow him to go and bury him. Jesus said to him, follow me and let the dead bury their dead. Harsh words indeed. But what can Jesus do? It is the truth. One should be strong to boldly tell the truth. The doctor should be bold enough to tell the patient that one of his or her organ or limbs needs to be amputated. He is there. Just follow him. Else in later life he would lament for not having the courage and taken the opportunity to serve him. The next sentence is deadly. Jesus says, "Let the dead bury their own dead." True. We live in the world of the dead. All are dead to the awareness to ask the vital questions about a meaning in life and about who we are. All are ready to follow, just float in the current without asking where we are going. What is the destination? And who am I? Who am I who is floating? Sri Ramakrishna once asked Girish to press his feet. The ego of a person of social status did not bend to accept the offer. Later in life, Girish developed great faith in Sri Ramakrishna, as we have seen. He was almost forcing Sri Ramakrishna to become his son. So Girish also cherished a desire to serve Sri Ramakrishna personally. But it happened the other way around actually. It was on a very hot summer midday that Girish arrived at Kashipur in Kolkata, where an ailing Sri Ramakrishna was undergoing treatment for his throat cancer. Sri Ramakrishna had almost no physical strength to get up from his bed. Girish entered Sri Ramakrishna's room. Girish looked tired of the heat and sweating. Sri Ramakrishna looked at him and understood his suffering. He got up from his bed holding the side pole, dragged his frail legs to a pitcher of water, poured water in a glass, checked it if the water was cold enough, came back to Girish taking support from the wall, and gave the glass of water to Girish. Girish sat at his place like a stone, observing the drama unfolding before his very earthly eyes. He drank the glass of water. M was lucky that he did not take that long to surrender to Sri Ramakrishna. Still he hesitated, maybe for the last time in his life, saying, "I think I had better not go. I would rather meet you here in Dakshineshwar." Well, here Sri Ramakrishna's intervention as an assurance matched that of a savior. He said, "Why should you think that? Take my name. Take my name. Says that you want to see me." What an assurance in it. We too are asked to take his name. Want to say that I want to see him. Meeting God is that simple for an yearning heart. Now I will read again from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, a small portion. It was Sunday, April 9, 1882. Sri Ramakrishna, God and His glory. This universe is His glory. People see His glory and forget everything. They do not see God, whose glory is this world. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Aramam asya pashyanti natam pashyati kaschana. Aramam, the garden. People are happy looking at the beauty of the garden, but nobody inquires who is the owner of the garden. Nobody inquires who has created this garden. Aramam asya pashyati. People look at the beauty of the garden. Natam pashyati kaschana. Nobody looks at it, the creator. At the same time, we have the courage to ask many relevant questions. Buddha preached 4 noble truths. He said, I teach that there is suffering, there is its origin, there is cessation of suffering, and there is a path or way to go out of suffering. There is suffering, there is the origin of suffering, and there is a cessation of suffering, and there is a way to get out of this suffering. These are the 4 noble truths he taught. And therefore he taught 8-fold paths to use as a practice to get out of suffering. The 8-fold path consists of 8 practices. Right view, right sammadishti. In Pali they say sammadishti. Right view, right resolve, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi. What does it matter? Even if a Buddha has taught such things, the first of the 4 noble truths is there is suffering. If and when someone feels this suffering, then and then alone the other teachings that follow will have meaning. If we don't feel that we are suffering, if we don't feel that we are bound, we are in bondage, then the scriptures ask us not to open any holy book. If you think that you are happy with this world, then do not open these books, because you are not competent to understand. If you are searching for knowledge in chemistry, do not open Sanskrit grammar. It will not serve your purpose. You are not competent. Similarly, the Vedantic fourfold spiritual practices are discernment between real and unreal, dispassion towards worldly things, practicing purity in thought, word, and deed, and mumukshutvam is the last, desire for liberation. Actually, the 4th or the last practice is the first one to begin with. Until and unless we have desire for liberation from bondage and suffering, we will not take up spiritual life seriously. So the purpose is important. The purpose is important. Why am I taking up spiritual practices, spiritual? There are some who would ask, some people do really ask such questions. If someone is happy enjoying life, doing wrong things, what is the objection? Very fine. But it is a dangerous hypothesis. Suppose the scriptures ask you, well, God forbid, suppose your son or daughter starts taking drugs and feel happy. Difficult to accept. I will read another portion from the Gospel. A devotee. Then what is the way, sir? Sri Ramakrishna. Prayer and the company of holy men. You cannot get rid of an ailment without the help of a physician. But it is not enough to be in the company of religious people only for a day. You should constantly seek it, for the disease has become chronic. A devotee. What is the good of holy company? Sri Ramakrishna. It begets a force that pulls us towards God. It begets love of God. Nothing whatsoever is achieved in spiritual life without yearning or intense longing for God. By constantly living in the company of holy men, the soul becomes restless and drawn towards God. This yearning is like the state of mind of a man who has someone ill in the family. His mind is in a state of perpetual restlessness, thinking how the sick person may be cured. Or again, one should feel a yearning for God like the yearning of a man who has lost his job and is wandering from one office to another in search of work. If he is rejected at a certain place which has no vacancy, he goes there again the next day and inquires, is there any vacancy today? There is another benefit from holy company. It helps one to cultivate discernment between the real and the unreal. God alone is real, that is to say, the eternal substance, and this world is unreal, that is to say, transitory. As soon as a man finds his mind wandering away to the unreal, he should apply discernment. The moment an elephant stretches out its trunk to eat a banana tree in a neighbor's garden, it gets a checking blow from the driver. There is another way. Earnestly pray to God. God is our very own. We should say to Him, O God, what is Thy nature? Reveal Thyself to me. Thou must show Thyself to me, for why else hast Thou created me? Sri Krishna divided the classes of God's devotees into three. He says the first class means the one class of devotees, those who turn to God for worldly benefits, like praying to God for getting something, a result, a material thing, etc., and for getting rid of the suffering in the world. Then number two, second, that class, the devotees who are not unhappy in the world, at the same time do not deny the need for God. They pray to God for God's grace. And finally, another group of devotees who are called the Jnanis, those who love God for love's sake. They inquire into the very nature of God. Sri Ramakrishna combined all these classes and put them into the path of gradual unfoldment of devotion. Initially, we don't understand that we should not use God as a waiter or bellboy. I ring the bell and God comes to me and asks, well, sir, what can I do for you? Okay. I say, okay, do this for me, bring this thing for me. or remove this thing from me. To get something or to get rid of something. So I use God not as the goal but as a means. But Sri Krishna is very generous. That is what Sri Ramakrishna says. It is his creation. He has to show compassion. That is normal. So, for getting things in the world and getting rid of something in the world, we are not going to some big officer. We are turning towards God. That's enough. Then we catch hold of God with one hand and do duties in the world with the other. That is the next step. Development happens like that. So he put, Sri Ramakrishna combined all these classes and put them into the path of gradual unfoldment of devotion. Everyone is walking God's way, walking that path, but some are still behind, but they are all turning towards God. Whatever be the purpose. That is why Sri Krishna says that they all belong to the category of his devotees. Artho, artharthi. Artho means those who want to get rid of suffering. Artharthi, those who want some material benefit, they too are his devotees. His creation. Now they are turning towards God for fulfilling their desires, worldly desires. And the second level of our growth is that we cannot live without God and also we cannot live without the world. So we are caught up in between and we are suffering, struggling. And most of the people belong to this category. And the scriptures say that if you belong to this category, you are blessed. You are blessed because that is what is called spiritual life. You are struggling between these two forces. And that is how you have to struggle to reach God. That is what is called spiritual life. And then the third one is inquiring into the very nature of God. How God is made, how he thinks, what he thinks, all these things, inquiring into the very nature of God. So they are called the jnanis. So we stop here today.